Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be preparing for a nautical show that I have coming up. It's not till like April, but I want to make some very nautical themed paintings for that show, so maybe I'll make it a bit of a series. And today we're going to be painting the Mahi Mahi, also known as Dorado, Dolphinfish, Dolphin, just Mahi, all kinds of stuff that they're called. I'm going to show you how I go from a blank page to this messy stage, all the way to this painting. Let's get right into it. Right off the bat, I went ahead and drew in with pencils ahead of time so that I could just get to the fun painting portions. And the first thing that I'm going to do today is I'm going to be very loose, very quick, and I'm going to apply some base colors. Now, Mahi, when they do light up and get full color, especially the males, which this is one of the males, I'll tell you how to tell the difference in a minute. When they color up all the way, they're very bright green, very bright yellow. They've got a lot of blue spotting and some blue fins, and so that's kind of the effect that we're going for today. So I'm going to put a bunch of those colors down very messily, and then we can refine it. So let's move on to that, and I'll tell you a few facts about this fish while we're getting there. In my intro, you notice I called it a bunch of different names. This fish is known by a lot of different names. Some of the most common ones, you've probably heard the term Mahi Mahi before. If you eat seafood quite frequently, you've definitely heard Mahi Mahi before. Like I said, they're also called dolphins, which is kind of an older name for them. Obviously, they're not dolphins like Flipper, and so that could be a bit of a confusion. So one of the newer names, Dolphinfish, kind of helps to delineate them. I've always referred to them as Mahi Mahi. They're also called Dorado, which is one of the names they go by in Spanish-speaking countries. There are multiple fish named Dorado, though, so it's always confusing with this fish, pretty much. There is actually a freshwater fish, total tangent, called a golden Dorado. If you don't speak Spanish, Dorado in Spanish roughly translates, I think, maybe not exactly, to gold. And so a golden Dorado is a golden gold, which is so stupid to me. But these guys are not that fish. These are saltwater species. And the Mahi Mahi is a very common saltwater species and a very commonly sought after, not only for food, but also game fish is a very fun one to catch. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the fun facts, and you'll watch me paint the whole thing while that process is going on. So I'm just kind of looking at some information that I can find easily online. I'm on Wikipedia. Your teachers tell you not to use it, but I think it's pretty okay source nowadays. It's very heavily moderated. And the first thing that I see here is the name that I prefer to call it, Mahi Mahi, is actually of Hawaiian descent. Mahi, I believe it says, means strong. Let me double check that. Yeah, so the word Mahi means strong. So when they put it together like that, it's sort of an amplifier. So Mahi Mahi translates roughly to very strong in the Hawaiian language, where they kind of originated this name from, which I think is pretty cool. So I told you this one that I'm painting is a male Mahi Mahi. And one of the ways you can tell is they are what's called sexually dimorphic, which is something that's pretty common in a lot of animals. Basically, what sexually dimorphic means is you can tell between the two standard sexes of male and female, you can see a difference between the two. So for the case of the Mahi Mahi, the male fish, they call them bull Mahi Mahi, they get this really big forehead. You can see this guy has a big head on top of him, whereas the female fish, they will typically be a bit more slender, a bit more streamlined, more torpedo shaped. And that torpedo shape is actually an advantage that they use. They are very fast swimming fish. So if you look up photos of these fish online, you'll see a lot of them have some speckling. I could go in and hand dot each of these speckles, or I could have some fun and I could splatter a bunch of paint all over the place, which if I'm given the option, I'm going to choose to splatter paint all over the place. And so you see me doing that here. I wanted to get some spots in, so I made a nice dark blue, which is usually the color the spots are, and I'm going to splatter it all over the place. I'm not worried about going to the background. I have to paint that still. And then once I get those splatters on, I'll give them a little bit of time to dry, and then I will actually paint the background. I'm just going to go for blue. It's a fish, swims in the water. Let's paint it blue. They're fast swimming fish because a lot of the food that they chase is also fast swimming fish. They have been recorded going as fast as 50 knots. And if you're not familiar with what knots are, that translates roughly to about 92, it says 92.6. So we'll round up to 93 kilometers per hour, or roughly 58 miles per hour, rounding up. It's once again 57 and a half. So, but that's really fast for any animal, especially fish. There are some obviously faster fish, but these are very, very quick fish. A lot of muscle, which is why they have such nice meat. A lot of the big muscular fast fish like that have a very red meat, and people love the way that the red meat on a fish tastes. So looking here, it looks like the Monterey Bay Aquarium classifies Mahi Mahi when caught in the U.S. Atlantic Ocean as a best choice, which is the upper echelon of environmental impact categories when it comes to eating fish. And so what that means is some fish are more populous than others, and some methods of catching certain fish are more harmful to the environment. And so what this says is it advises to avoid imported mahi, because typically they're harvested on long line fishing, which is just one really big long line with a bunch of hooks on it, which has a lot of harmful impacts to the environment. They tangle up other fish and dolphins and sharks and things like that in these lines and nets, and they catch a lot of stuff that they're not intending to catch, which injures these fish and kills a lot of these fish, and they just toss them back. They don't care. It's called bycatch. When you're fishing for something specifically and you catch something else on accident, a lot of it is just discarded and thrown away. And so they suggest if you are looking for this kind of fish to eat, that you look for troll and pole as well as line caught fish, which when you think of going fishing, this is what we're talking about. Things where you are pulling bait behind you and they chase it down, or you're actually using a fishing pole. Obviously it's less effective, you catch them less frequently, but it's a better impact on the environment because you can target fish, certain fish more specifically. And so this is a really healthy population and a very clean way to catch them in certain areas. And so that's why the Monterey Bay Aquarium classifies them as a very good choice. In fact, a best choice is the name for their category for consumption. And hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this video, please do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment, all those standard YouTube things. I always ask at the end of the videos the same questions, and most of you at that point aren't paying attention anymore. You've already clicked off the video, so I figured it'd be good to ask kind of in the middle here. If you are interested by this kind of content, hit subscribe. You'll see my stuff all the time. I do things like this. I do tutorials. I do speed paints. I show you kind of behind the scenes of the progress and the work that I'm doing. So if that kind of interests you, or you can think of something that you maybe want to see me try, leave a comment, let me know, subscribe. Those things help the channel out a ton. They don't cost you very much money, or any money, in fact, just a little bit of time, and it really helps the channel out a ton. So if you are enjoying, don't forget to subscribe. We'll continue with the video. So at this stage, it doesn't look like much. Obviously there's some colors down. It's roughly a fish shape, I would say, but it needs a lot of refining. And if you know me, if you've watched this channel before, we're moving on to what you know is one of my favorite portions of this phase. Is I'm going to come in with my zebra brush pens, which is a nice dark black ink on what is a brush pen. So I have a lot of control over my line width and the weight of my presses. The lighter I press, the thinner the line. So the heavy presses make thicker lines, and I can come in here and I can line up this drawing or this painting. So I can draw in some of my details. I'm gonna go around the outline. I'm gonna do some of the eyes and where the gills go and the mouth and all of these things that I think are going to add to the painting to make things make a little bit more sense. So when it comes to lifespan, a Mahi Mahi typically lives max like 5 years. The average age to find a fully mature one is roughly 4. They kind of start dying off around 4 or 5 years old. And typically when they're caught by fishermen, they are between 7 to 13 kilograms in weight, which is 15 to 29 pounds and about a meter or 3 feet long. Females usually are on the smaller side, males usually on the slightly bigger side. Like I said earlier, they're sexually dimorphic, so the males are bigger. They have the big fat foreheads. The females typically don't. A very large Mahi Mahi could be closer to 40 pounds, 18 kilograms. That's a huge Mahi. You're not going to see them very often. That's like a once in a lifetime kind of fish, but they grow very fast. Let me see here. It doesn't really give a growth chart that I can see here on Wikipedia, but it mentions that they are a very fast growing fish, among the fastest growing fish. So like I said, their lifespan is only 4 to 5 years. They can get full size very, very quickly. And that's obviously good for the things we talked about earlier, the consumption portion, because they have a very large, very healthy population and they grow very quickly, which means that you can produce a lot of meat very quickly, which is kind of, I imagine, one of the things that people take into consideration when they are classifying these fish as to how environmentally impactful it is to fish for them specifically. And now after I've done that, I'm kind of at a refining stage. And the best way to make something look more realistic, which at the end of the day is kind of my goal, right? I don't want it to be hyper realistic, but I want it to have some sort of realism to it, is to add a lot of contrast. I've said this several times before, but our eyes see in a lot better contrast than what most mediums can create. So when you up the contrast, really darken some of your blacks or your darkest areas and really, really lighten some of your highlights, it's going to help to make it seem more realistic. It's kind of a little cheat that I like to do whenever I think something is a little flat or looks a little weird. Usually if I just go darker in my darks and lighter in my lights, it solves all my problems. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And while I'm darkening the darks, I'm also going to lighten my lights. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go with my white paint marker, and I'm going to add some highlights. You see, they're kind of weirdly shaped. This is to get the effect of, you know, when the light comes through the water, those little light marks you see on the bottom of your pool, perhaps, or in the bottom of a pond. This is going to be kind of going down the sides of my mahi, and I'm going to be focusing more on the top, obviously, because that's where the light's going to be coming from, and it'll trail off toward the bottom. I think that's going to help me get not only some three-dimensionality to it, but also some interesting shapes, and interesting shapes make interesting paintings, and interesting paintings are good. Alright, so here we are at the end of the video. We are all finished. I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy up so you can see. I am very happy with this final result. It is the perfect combination, I think, of messy but controlled, where it's you can tell what's going on and it's not all over the place, but there is definitely some action and some motion in the painting so that it provides a little bit more than if I were to just stay perfectly in the lines the whole time. I think that's kind of a happy medium for me. I'm very happy with this. I would say this is pretty good. Maybe if anything, I would take a little bit more time in the laying down the paint stage. Maybe I would have done a couple more splatters or darkened up some of these splatters, but this is a good painting. I'm very happy with this painting. This is something that would sell at a boat show, which ultimately is the goal of making this painting. So I would say that this is a success. If you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment, share with your friends. all the standard YouTube things. They're free. They help the channel out so much. You don't understand. Those kind of things really help the views. They get the videos boosted out to see more people. The interactions are good. YouTube likes to see that people are liking and interacting with my content, so it makes a huge difference. So if you could, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You guys are really wonderful. I appreciate all the support I have been getting. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. So I'll see you guys in the next one.